I wanted to talk about a part of me in the ExJW community that really disturbs me is the lack of conversation about like self-help books and reading about ways to help yourself after leaving the cult. Um, I see a lot of conversation about doctrinal issues, and this is important, and it is definitely redundant, and you can see it a lot in most of the apostate videos on YouTube. And there's no shortage of rebuttals and debunking and all this other nonsense. But I get really bothered with the fact that people aren't really helping themselves after leaving and learning how to take care of themselves psychologically, and mentally and emotionally. And this really is obvious when you look at the Facebook groups and you see the emotionally disturbed people in there and how freaking batshit crazy they are. And this all makes a lot of sense when you really look into, living as a Jehovah's Witness. Um, a lot of people seem to be very dependent upon what certain, group leaders are doing and how they're living their lives, and they're really concerned about their morality and what they're doing, and they don't understand how codependent this is. And so the first book I want to recommend is every witness should read this. In my psychology circles, usually we recommend this book for FE users. That's I'll put in the description what an FE user is, what type that is, the 16 types. But as a Jehovah's Witness, every single person in the Kingdom Hall learned to be codependent and had to be codependent to even function as a witness. Okay, and so this book here, Codependent No More. Oh, it's backwards. Okay. Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. How to stop controlling others and start caring for yourself. Now, she herself is an isfj, and she speaks from a point of being a woman in a marriage with an alcoholic, and she also grew up with an alcoholic father. And this taught her how to be codependent in her life, and this obviously carried on. So everybody who was a Jehovah's Witness had an alcoholic father or mother that abused them, that you know selfishly needed their emotional attention, and selfishly made sure they could not take care of their own emotional problems or emotional health. And so everybody in the Kingdom Hall was also trying to control others, and what other people were doing was literally critical to them being staying as a Jehovah's Witness, because it was a snitch community. And so knowing what other people were doing and trying to control that was literally a day-to-day process in the faith. And this is not even including the elders who are literally taught to be codependent with mother, in the organization, and literally trying to control the people in the Kingdom Hall. And they would use ways to manipulate, which we call a covert contract, where you do good deeds in trying to get somebody to do something in return without directly saying that's what you want. And this is typically what codependent people will do. And so everyone needs to understand they were damaged by an alcoholic father or mother. In this case, the father being fictional to God, and then the mother being overbearing organization, headquartered in New York. And people really need to address themselves. They really need to fix their health. And reading a bunch of doctrinal issues all day long and Masonic bullshit without being an emotionally healthy person to begin with isn't really that beneficial to you. You wouldn't want to go to college if you're regularly having panic attacks, depression issues, and just emotional trauma on a day-to-day basis, because you're not really going to get your education, and you're probably not going to graduate. And so the same thing applies for here. Most people, you can debunk the Jehovah's Witness faith by just reading 4 chapters in Crisis of Conscience. There's no reason to need to read 6 billion books and then interview all these different people and try to come to a conclusion on that. And so that's my thoughts on this. This is one book. I'm going to talk about other books too, but this one has been around forever. It's tried and true. I've known many people that literally read it like a textbook, underlining and writing down notes, and it was very helpful to me. Myself being an ENTP, obviously we struggle with being codependent ourselves because we're all about what other people want and what other people value, and this typically, reflects on us being used up, and which I was tremendously, by the Jehovah's Witness faith, and so this is the case for every witness. It's been there, whether you were an elder, whether you were just a publisher, whether you were just around Jehovah's Witnesses for that matter. Let's say, for instance, you were raised by a witness family and you never got baptized and you just took off. You still had that codependency and that, the fog, the fear, obligation, and guilt put upon you, just like a drunkard father or a drunkard mother would do to you. Someone who is, abusive because they're dependent on certain things. And so this book I highly recommend, Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. Everyone should read it. In the books I'm going to recommend are also available in audiobook, that's how I read. I don't necessarily read paperback. But I like to listen to audiobooks, and if you're just cleaning your house, you can have an audiobook on you. This is what I do, or you go jogging or walking or some kind of exercise. Listen to books, read, and apply to things. I want to do a shout out. Stop the shunning. Beth, I think, is always talks about books, and she's one of the few apostates that actually recommends reading, and I really appreciate that about her. And you gotta love your neighbor as yourself, right? Is what Jesus taught. And so this is interesting because witnesses talk about this all the time, but they don't love themselves. And so, unless you're a person that you love and respect, you're not going to really accomplish much in life. And you're not going to have close friends, and you're not going to be, finding people that are, healthy to be around. And so, these are my thoughts on this. And please read books, read self help books, read books that help you.